Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we're speaking with a 32-year-old athlete who grew up playing every sport you can think of, but really poured her heart and soul into horseback riding before she found her career in bodybuilding. She started her weightlifting journey in 2013, but hit the stage for the first time in 2018 and won the overall before going on to compete at the national level and earn her pro card in 2022 as the overall champion at junior nationals. She and her IFBB Pro Classic Physique competitor husband actually turned pro together that weekend, which was really an awesome celebration of their hard work together. I can't wait to discuss that more. But outside of competing and even recently making her pro debut at the Tampa Pro, she owns a private studio in New Jersey where she specializes in hand-tied hair extensions and natural-looking hair color and styling outfits, which her outfits are so inspirational for me. Like, I love them. So welcome to the show, Kristen Reilly. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm really happy you're here. And I got to ask if there's anything you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you have before your heel hits the stage.
In the beginning, I would say that I was so nervous that I almost, I don't even remember what the thoughts were that would cross my mind because I feel like I would almost just black out. But over the years, I feel like I kind of keep to myself. I'm very in my own element. I'm very quiet backstage. And I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of like a loner. Like I'm always just by myself and that's how I like it. So I think what I like to do is just kind of observe everything and soak in the moment because when I first started, I never really soaked in the moment and took in all of the excitement around me. So I really just like to be in the moment as much as possible and just, you know, channel my confidence that I know is down there somewhere, but it's really hard to bring that out sometimes because you get nervous, but I've gotten a lot better at that. So yeah, I like to just be in the moment.
I love that. And was your confidence different, or did you feel a shift in your confidence once you earned your pro card, or would you say like that shift was already there?
I would say that it definitely changed after winning my pro card. I feel like I was really confident going into my shows leading up to my pro win. And then once I hit the pro stage, it was very humbling. My confidence kind of went out the window a little bit. And I had to remind myself, like, you deserve to be here. You worked really hard and you look incredible no matter what happens. And yeah, it's just a very humbling experience stepping on a pro stage for the first time.
And you were able to get out to Tampa like a week before your pro debut, and you had been experiencing some of that doubt and wondering if you belong there. And ultimately, like, you were realizing that you did, even if it meant like you were starting from the bottom again. So in one of your posts, you had set the intention to really learn from this experience and enjoy being a pro. So do you feel like you got what you wanted from it?
Oh, without a doubt, definitely. If bodybuilding has taught me anything, is that there are no failures, just lessons. And, I knew going into my pro debut that I wasn't going to win. And I knew that I wasn't even going to make first or second call outs, but that was okay because I was there for the experience. So yeah.
I think that's a really important point to make because at some point, like, you have to get on stage. And I think whether you're amateur or you're a new pro, sometimes what happens is people get in their head like, well, if I'm not going to win, what's the point? Or what if
Mm-hmm.
I like don't stack up against other people? And there's all that doubt that actually keeps us from fulfilling something that could be really, really rewarding. So it
Right,
sounds like
right.
for you, like it's been about the lessons.
Yes, without a doubt.
So what are some of those things that you learned maybe in your journey through the NPC that you feel like will serve you in your IFBB career?
I would say that a placing doesn't define you and it's not the end all be all. And it doesn't take away from your improvements. Um, for example, last season, as an amateur, I was placing consistently in the first call outs, but never top five. I was always getting like seventh or eighth. And then this year I came back with a physique that completely blew my last physique out of the water. And at junior nationals, I got seventh place, and I was so down on myself. I was like, what happened? Did I not improve? Or and then, when I had a little bit of time to think about everything, I was like, no, that this placing doesn't mean I didn't improve. It just means that there was somebody there that was better than me that day, but it doesn't mean that I, you know, didn't bring my best because I did. So yeah, I would say that a placing doesn't define you.
I think that's so important. And honestly, I feel like every competitor learns that at
We
some point.
Yes, exactly. And it's very eye-opening, and it's all what matters is what you do with it. You can sit and dwell on it, or you can take it and apply what you've learned to your next show.
Yes. And I think it kind of separates those who only prioritize the placing or the
Hmm.
outcome from those who really prioritize the process. And it's not always
Hmm.
easy because when you commit day in and day out and then you get dead last or you fall back like
Hmm.
X amount of placings, that can get in your head or it can make you feel a certain way. But like you said,
Totally.
you don't know who's going to be there. So, how did it feel for you then to go from last to eighth to sixth and then the first with an overall? I mean, that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah. It went almost exactly how I had hoped it would go. I got a very good start off to my season, and then I had the minor setback with junior nationals, and then I took what I learned from that show, and 2 weeks later I got my pro card. And that was the ultimate goal. Like, I was hoping to get my pro card at Universe because it's my hometown and my family was there, my husband was there. It was just the perfect situation.
That is so amazing. And it was pretty cool that you did it with your husband.
Yes, it was a very, very surreal moment for both of us.
And what was it like? I do want to ask like a little bit about this. I'm going to go back to your journey for sure, but you and your
Uh-huh.
husband turning pro together, like what was that like for both of you? How did that represent your prep together?
I I honestly feel like since the day we met, our timelines have just been so in sync. Like, it was just meant to be for us. Like, everything that we've done together has just lined up so perfectly from the day we met to, just everything, not even just with bodybuilding, but just like with our lives in general. But yeah, I mean, we started competing the same year together. So I've been doing this journey with him the whole time. And he's been there for me and supported me and vice versa. And yeah, it was just really crazy to see both of our dreams come true on the same weekend.
What do you think attributes to you guys being so in sync with each other from the start? Or like what would you attribute that to?
Well, I think we're very much alike, but we're also very, very opposite. Like, we balance each other out very well. Like, I'm more type A, a little on the anxious side. And, you know, I go back, my mindset is always like, if I'm not early, I'm late. And he's the total opposite. Like he will show up like with 5 seconds to spare. And it just, I don't know, we just balance each other out really well. And same with prepping. Like when I get anxious or in my head, he is just there to remind me that, you know, my time will come.
Love that. And when you guys met, you said this was also in perfect timing. So what was going on at that time that led you to be with each other or meet each other in such a great way?
So I back in 2014, I was with somebody else and we got married very quickly. And that marriage did not work out. It was very toxic and emotionally, it it just really took a toll on me emotionally, mentally, and physically. And, you know, I was just kind of a lost soul at that point. This was before my bodybuilding career and before I really started taking fitness seriously. And, you know, one day I said, enough is enough. I'm done. I deserve better. And it was really hard for me to walk away from that, but I knew in the long run that I had to. And a month later, I met Michael and he DM'd me on Instagram and we talked for about a month before actually meeting in person. And the rest is history. We were inseparable ever since.
Wow. So
Mm-hmm.
you went from like being a or feeling like I should say a lost soul, like really struggling to feel
Mm-hmm.
safe or at peace or happy and supported in your relationship. And I think a lot of people can say they struggle with that now or have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you went through that at a really young age, which had left
Yeah.
you feeling like that depression, that worthlessness, that loneliness. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, it seems like it guided you or it led you to then pursuing everything you've become now.
Exactly.
Wow. And how things fall into place when we walk away from toxicity or from what we've known for so long can be hard. So how did you realize that that wasn't the right situation for you? Like how did you know that you deserved better or you needed to go and leave?
Well, it took a while for me to actually get to my breaking point. For about a year, I knew that he was not being faithful, but I didn't actually have any, you know, real proof. And then one day I got the proof that I needed. And that's when I
Mhm.
decided, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not allowing this to happen. Um, you know, so yeah, it was just like a series of events that eventually led me to it's I shouldn't even say I did it confidently. I didn't leave confidently. I was like I was so shattered and you know, luckily I had my parents who were extremely supportive and my sister and my friends. But yeah, I didn't necessarily want to leave, but I made myself leave. It was very difficult to make that decision because you get comfortable and sometimes even if something's painful, you still are comforted by that pain in a way. Like it's hard leaving a relationship even when you know you should.
Oh my gosh. Tell me about it. Like
Yeah.
I totally understand that. Um we're by the time people hear this, it'll have been much longer, but I
Hmm.
left my 7-year relationship and that was so hard and it's still fresh.
Yeah.
Like and that comfort that you're talking about is so relatable because and I don't know if you experienced this, but like and our situations are different for sure.
Hmm.
But like I experience this sometimes desire like oh I kind of miss him and well I do
Hmm.
miss and it's like you I want to go back but I'm fighting myself and saying like no give yourself time like you walked away for a reason.
Hmm. Yeah, I something I noticed is that over time you kind of forget how painful things are. Like even physically, like you don't
Mhm.
really remember pain after a while. And when you look back, you're like, oh, it wasn't so bad. But really, like in the moment, it's it's very painful and it sucks. So you just have to remind yourself, the reasons why you left and don't forget it.
That's such such good advice and support because
Yeah.
I'm sure, like I actually know for a fact, like that I'm not the only one going through this. And I know there's a lot of people who have been through this. And something that usually goes through my mind, not even just from like personal experience, but also from like a mental health perspective, is sometimes we bring old patterns or fears or wounds into new relationships. And I was
Hmm.
curious if this is something you were worried about or worried or nervous that you would endure the same type of pain. Like, did you lack trust or did you doubt that the love you wanted existed? I know I'm rambling a bit, but those are the questions I'm thinking.
No, not at all. So yeah, I mean, I still have to remind myself to this day that my relationship now is nothing like my last relationship. But those feelings still come up sometimes where it's not necessarily that I don't trust my husband because I do wholeheartedly trust him, but I doubt myself. Am I good enough for him?
Mm.
Am, you know, why me? Why did he pick me? Because I don't deserve such a good person in my life. But I do. And, that's just kind of like a habit that has carried you know, into the present from the past. And I have to work through it every day.
Yeah, it's almost like you lived being made to feel that way for so long that it
Mhm.
makes sense that you would still have those questions or wonder that even though you have so much proof that they're not necessarily justified in your current situation, nor were they before. It was just a product of your environment and the relationship
Mhm.
at the time.
Exactly.
Hmm. So you had mentioned like earlier that when you guys met, it was like a really positive time and you guys got into bodybuilding together. How did you get to that place where you wanted to put all that energy into the gym? Or maybe why did you decide to do that?
So I think I got into fitness a little bit more seriously right after I left the previous relationship. I put all of my sad, uh, angry energy into the gym. And, I just dove headfirst into it. And I've always followed bodybuilding and I've followed a lot of pros for a long time. And I knew I always wanted to compete, but I knew I wasn't ready. I was still so new in the fitness journey and I still couldn't stick to a diet at that point. I was eating like, you know, deli sandwiches for lunch, chicken fingers, French fries. So it took time um, to really like to be where I am now in terms of being disciplined and doing what I need to do. But in the beginning, it was a slow process. But my first step was just getting into the gym and just doing something.
So there's probably people who would look at you and be like, she's never struggled before. Like,
Oh
look
my
at
gosh.
her, you know? So I
Yeah.
had I would have had no idea that like at one point you didn't have the discipline to stick to
Mm-mm.
like a plan. Are there
Mhm.
other things you think people don't know about you or don't know that you struggled with that you've been able to overcome or eventually like create within yourself?
Well, I've always struggled with binge eating. I think that it was more prevalent as I started to get more into fitness because, when you diet and you come out of a diet, all you want to do is eat.
Mm.
And with my first competition, I did my prep, 16-week prep, did my show, and then messaged my coach and was like, "Hey, it was fun. I'll let you know when I'm ready to compete again." And then I was off on my own, did whatever I wanted, ate whatever I wanted. And I'm lucky in a sense where I'm not I didn't gain too much weight. I think it's just genetics, but I still felt very uncomfortable in my skin with the little bit of weight that I did put on. I didn't feel good. And I still struggle to this day with those urges to binge on whatever I feel like binging on. Like I have a huge sweet tooth. I could eat an entire box of Oreos in one sitting. And then when I'm done, I feel like crap. I feel ashamed. And over the years, I learned that I am in control of my actions. And I ask myself a few questions. I ask, how is this going to make me feel afterwards? Is this going to help me achieve my goals? And is this is this just is I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm like trying to think. Um, but yeah, anyway, so I ask if this is going to help me in the long run, and it's not. I'm going to feel like crap after. So I've learned that binging always leads to feeling terrible. And I've learned to just kind of cope with it and keep myself busy in the moments that I feel like binging.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that you shared that and opened up about that because it's a conscious daily effort and we have to be willing to put that effort in for ourselves. Like if we truly want
Yes.
to like stop binge eating, we first have to like validate the fact that it's serving some purpose in our life. And then
Mm-hmm.
we have to be willing to like actually look at what purpose it's serving so we can find other ways to fulfill that or combat it. And
Right.
I love that you brought up, you asked yourself those questions because a part of
Mm-hmm.
my food relationship program is a very particular set of mealtime rituals I put together with competitors in mind because we don't want to take away from the fact that it's okay to have fitness goals, performance goals, physique goals, but we also don't want to take away from the fact that like the urge to eat, the urge to binge, the urge to maybe even harm yourself after
Mm-hmm.
participating in activity like that because of the shame is
Right.
really prevalent. So if we run away from it, the problem gets bigger. So I love how you have really learned to like sit with it and face it, even though that's challenging. I'm sure it's probably let you, or it sounds like it's let you ride that wave of cravings or urges
Mm-hmm.
longer and therefore get through them.
Yeah. And I feel like for me personally, this is something that it's never just going to go away. It's something that I'm always going to have to work on and remind myself. But I think one thing that has helped me a lot is in prep, obviously, it's different. I can't have anything off my meal plan, but it's off season. That's difficult for all of us. Having the flexibility to eat pretty much anything we want, it makes it hard to control certain things. So I feel like something that's helped me is I tell myself nothing is off limits. Like I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want. And knowing that the food is available anytime makes me feel less like I have to have it right now. Like I'll be like, okay, if I want to have a cookie, I won't have it right now, but maybe I'll have it after my free meal on the weekends because I am allowed to have a free meal right now. Um, and I also have learned to really tune in with my hunger cues. I try to remember, to stop eating when you're full. And you can enjoy that burger, those French fries, and that cookie, but don't enjoy it to the point where you feel sick after. Like just eat a little bit of it, enjoy it, and then stop when you're full. And then that way you get the best of both worlds. You still get to have that balance in your life, but without the consequences of feeling terrible after.
Such great insight. And I am so glad that you're sharing that, especially from your experience, because I think there's a lot of uniqueness to what you're sharing as well. And I want to highlight it, which is you said earlier that you didn't gain a lot of weight, but it still didn't make you feel good. And I think that's an important point that I just wanted to re-highlight.
Mhm.
Because binging isn't just like we don't want to just stop binging because it can lead to weight gain or fat gain or whatever. It's like you're wanting to stop it because it doesn't make you feel like your best self or the actual true representation
Hmm.
of you.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fleeting moment of instant gratification, and then afterwards, it's hours long of guilt, and it's just not worth it.
Yes, so true. And um side note, a lot of the times when those who struggle with binging just have a little bit lower like impulse control, but
Hmm.
like in prep, we're working that muscle all the time.
Hmm.
And but it's coming from a place of I'm doing this because of prep or I'm doing this because of
Hmm.
a certain way.
Hmm.
So something I always like to recommend is like practice, not to you specifically, Kristen, just to listeners in general, but like practicing impulse control outside of the context of food to like
Hmm.
develop that trust with yourself that you can then apply when it comes to food. And similarly, like if there are things that help you overcome like the binging type feels, because I know that in the past for me, when I used to binge, it was like if I felt full, a normal level of fullness post show, because like, in prep, you're almost always hungry towards the end. So you lose touch
Yes.
with that. So then the slightest feeling of fullness can almost trigger this association with a past binge. Like, oh, I must have
Yes.
gone too far. And then you might binge because you're like, well, I'm already too full. So
Exactly.
I think it's important, like when we are in prep, also take the time to like put food down, put food away, come back to a meal later. Like it may
Hmm.
be a different approach, but I think it's one that allows us to then come out of prep with that type of conscious awareness of how our body's actually feeling and stay in tune with our satiation levels.
Totally. I 100% agree.
Now, do you ever fall into like the depression or the low bouts of self-esteem even now, like outside of the urges or the shame that can come with binging, but like just in general with those two things?
Yeah, I definitely have my moments. I feel like I go through like waves of it. I'll be great for a few weeks, super confident and just loving myself. And then I wake up one day and I just hate everything. I'm sad. And I think it happens a lot more in the colder months, like the winter blues. Like I get that a lot. Um, but yeah, I definitely go through seasons of highs and lows for sure. And sometimes the lows are really low, sometimes they're not so bad. And, sometimes the highs are amazing, but, it can be exhausting going from so up and down sometimes.
Oh my gosh, seriously. And how do you learn to or how have you learned to like accept and almost expect that those highs and lows will come?
I think just, I owe it a lot of it to competing. I feel like competing has really taught me um, that I am in control of a lot more than I think. So I've really just learned to analyze the root cause of things, like the things that make me feel low. Um, I just try to really pay attention to what my body and mind are telling me because it's hard to realize sometimes when you're in the moment and you don't realize until like later down the road when you can look back on something. So I try really hard to figure out what's causing the way I feel in that moment.
Hmm. What do you normally find?
Um, a lot of it stems around how I look. And I think what has helped me is realizing that life isn't always going to be about how you look. And it's really hard to separate your looks from your worth and your value, especially when you're in a sport that revolves around how you look. But I also think it's it's a good and a bad thing, I guess, because I don't know how to explain it, but I think you get what I'm saying. Like it's hard to separate how you look from, the person that you actually are inside. And I know I'm a good person and that, makes me feel good. But it's hard not to get down on yourself in the off season when you put on a little bit of weight and you don't look, stage lean. It can mentally be very challenging and make you sad and depressed. And, then when you get sad and depressed, it affects your workouts, it affects everything.
So true. And like you said, like we're literally in a sport that continuously reinforces that connection between
Mm-hmm.
what we do, how we eat, how we move, how we function to the way that we look.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we know consciously or even subconsciously that there's other reasons why we live this lifestyle outside of
Mm-hmm.
looking like or meeting criteria, let's say established by the NPC or IFBB,
Mm-hmm.
we still get on stage, and that's what's determining like the outcome of
Mm-hmm.
like everything we've done. So it's forming these really strong associations because every day we're thinking about meeting this criteria. But at the end of the day, like what you said earlier, you love all the lessons, and bodybuilding's given you so much and taught you so much, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't change that we are still in a sport that has aesthetic demands, which
Right.
already puts us at risk of um, disordered eating behaviors or a
Mm-hmm.
particular fixation on weight, size, shape. Then that's like research backed as well.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I feel like all of us have struggled with something, like we all have something that we struggle with. And for me, I struggle with off season and the the post show blues that come with it and the urge to binge, like, all of those things lead you down into a very, you know, low time in your life. And you have to be mentally strong enough to be able to pull yourself out of it and look at the big picture.
Yes. What's your big picture?
Well, for starters, I have a loving husband who I'm very, very grateful for. Um, and I just try to remember my life outside of bodybuilding. Like I have a successful business. I have a great family, my husband, my two cats I come home to every day. And I also try to remember why I started competing in the first place. And it's because I love to train. Like, first and foremost, I love to train. And the fact that I'm physically able to go to the gym every day and do what I love, it's a luxury. And I never take it for granted.
That is awesome. I think that's like a great reminder when we do get caught up in those. I don't even like saying it's superficial because it's really not. It's real. It's
Mm-hmm.
something we experience. So it's not superficial, but for lack of a better term, like when we get caught up in those things, like bringing us back to the reality of what is our life. Like
Mm-hmm.
my computer broke, and then I was like, oh my God, this sucks. And then like
Mm-hmm.
the guy who was fixing it, like he didn't even have a leg and he's in a wheelchair, and then he had a stroke while he's fixing it. And I'm thinking, I'm complaining about my computer, like come
Yeah.
on, you know what I mean? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
perspective. And I think if we can bring perspective to everything we do, like especially with bodybuilding, it also then helps reinforce that. And my message is build more than just a body, but it helps us
Mm-hmm.
reinforce that that's what we're doing, is we're building more than just a body.
Exactly. Bodybuilding is, of course, about your body, but it's going to change you mentally, emotionally, and in the best way possible if you let it and if you work at it, because it could make or break you. It could tear you down if you let it. But if you don't let it, it's going to teach you amazing things and it's going to bring the most amazing people into your life.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. This sport gives so much. Like this
Mm-hmm.
community is
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm blown away every day. But you said you struggle in your improvement season, and you are in an improvement season now, right?
Yeah. Yep, I am.
So, what are you focusing on? Not even just from a physique and feedback standpoint, but just in all areas of life.
Um, I would say that I'm learning to make this more of just a full-time lifestyle that is sustainable. Because like I said before, when I first started competing, I would do my show and then I would just go back to eating whatever I wanted. And now I don't even want to do that anymore. Now I still check in with my coach every week. I still eat all the same foods that I normally eat on prep. I just eat more of them because those foods make me feel good. So I'm just focusing on just being an athlete all year round, but in a way that I enjoy and in a way that's not going to burn me out. Um, and, I am focusing on my business. I'm focusing on other things that I love to do. You know,
Yeah.
just just improving the quality of life in general and still being an athlete.
That is awesome. And it reminds me of like I like to call it like the threshold, but like we all know that the majority of us, because we're very like type A or perfectionist or like driven and focused, we could do something really intensive and demanding for a short period of time without fault. And we could say like I could work for 18 hours straight, or I could eat only chicken and green beans for 52 weeks. And I guarantee you a lot of us could do it. But could we do it for the next 5 years? Or could we do it without binging after? Or could we do it without seeing food differently or in a way that doesn't serve our overall life and quality or our body? Like,
Mhm.
no. And that's the
No.
threshold. So it's like we all have to find our threshold and then kind of expand it. And it seems like for you, in the very beginning, you didn't have the discipline that you have now, which is like amazing and tremendous growth. And then your
Yeah.
discipline is like very intense in prep. And now you're finding like that threshold of like, what's the level of discipline and focus I can maintain as an athlete year round that's going to support me in one. It sounds like you want to do this in the long run, which is why you're focusing on this, I'm assuming.
Yes. And, it makes me feel good to be disciplined too. So, of course, I want to compete at least for the next like 2 years until we eventually start a family. But the lifestyle will forever stay with me. And I'm so thankful for that because, I feel good every single day eating the foods that I eat and being on some type of regimen, even though it's a little more flexible now. Like, I just have the best of both worlds of being able to enjoy life and still reaching my goals.
I love that. What does your life look like now compared to when you're in prep?
It's pretty much the same, actually. I'm super low key. I don't really go out a lot. Like, I go to the gym, I go to work, and on the weekends, I spend as much time with my husband as possible. And we'll usually go to the gym together and then maybe get dinner on a Saturday night. But yeah, I'm very simple and I love like styling outfits and fashion and all that stuff, as you know, but it's pretty low key for me.
Yeah, I think that's so cool about you. Like, there's a lot of these things that I had no idea until I reached out to have you on. And it's awesome because I would always like look at your page and think, oh my God, her fashion sense is so amazing.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. Have you always been like that?
I guess so. I've always loved fashion, like even, before Instagram influencers and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I've always been super into fashion and home decor and styling homes and things like that. Like I think I get it from my mom. She's very artsy and like she's always very put together. Um, so yeah, I think I get a lot of it from her. Like I told you earlier, we went antiquing today. Like I love finding old vintage dishes and just paintings. I don't know. I'm very eccentric, I guess.
I love it. And when you go about like, let's say you go antique shopping or you find new home decor, new plates, do you get rid of your old stuff or are you like hoarding it?
No, I'm definitely very selective about what I buy. Like everything has a place and a purpose. Like I don't just like buy things on a whim. I actually really like modern and clean and simple, but with like hints of vintage and just things with character, if that makes any sense.
Totally. Yeah, like the vision I'm getting is like a very like warm, neutral, clean look, but like
Yes.
it's okay if it has like a 70s colorful chair with like particular stylings to it. Like I at least that's the vision I saw.
Yeah, totally.
So I might as well ask you like for some advice around this, but do you have go-to pieces that you feel like everyone should have, whether that's in their home or it's in their closet?
Fashion wise, everybody needs a good oversized men's blazer. You can literally find one from Goodwill and they're the best. They go with everything. You can dress up a blazer, you can throw it on with your workout outfit and do like an athleisure type style. Like I could wear a blazer with literally anything. Sweats even.
I love blazers, and I
Yes.
have not ever thought to go oversized men's. That's a
Oh
good
my
idea.
gosh, yes. Oversized is the best.
Love that. Okay, so you need to have that.
Yep.
Anything else?
And a good pair of cowboy boots.
Wow, I did not expect you to say that.
Yeah, but probably not in the way that you think. Like not in like a like I like to dress them up, I guess.
Yeah, I've seen I'm just gonna let like plug everyone to your Insta, but like good inspo there.
Yes, thank you.
Of course. I think it's hard sometimes as an athlete though to like find clothing that both like
Hmm.
fits and flatters us.
I agree. Yeah, I have to say I have clothes for all my seasons. I have off-season clothes and I have prep clothes. Like I usually, if there's a pair of jeans that I like, I buy one that's like small and then one that's large, depending on, how they fit because nothing ever fits me the same throughout the year.
I was gonna ask you that. So I'm really glad that
Yeah.
you said that. I was talking to someone the other weekend. I was at this retreat and we were talking about how like you can wear a pair of pants and then the next day, like in a prep, it's like they no longer fit. And
Well, not at all.
right. And like suddenly you're in your prep drawer and then there is a time where you got to put your prep clothing away and you're like, oh, but those leggings are so cute, or I love that
Yeah.
outfit. So I like your idea of getting multiples of each.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe everybody doesn't agree with that, and that's fine. But for me personally, if I want to look cute and stylish all year round, I have to buy multiples of my favorite things because, otherwise I'll never fit into them half the year.
Yeah. Now, what about for the home? Anything come to mind?
A good, I would say a good big mirror, definitely.
Ooh, I've been
If you
looking
don't,
for one.
yeah, you need a good big mirror because I feel like it makes like a big mirror makes your space look so much bigger because it just reflects like all you know, the other walls or the mirror, the windows or the light. Like it just makes everything feel so much bigger, especially if you're in a small place like me. My husband and I, we live in a one-bedroom apartment, so it's pretty small, but you wouldn't think so if you saw like a picture with the mirror in it because it just, makes it look so much bigger.
That's really cool. Did you feel like it opened up when you added it too?
Definitely, without a doubt.
So, aside from like the fashion and the house design and styling, I know you also were maybe thinking of getting back into horseback riding. Is that something you're doing?
Yeah, that's always going to be like, I would say it's a passion of mine right up there with bodybuilding. Like that's what I did before I got into competing and I did it my whole life and I definitely want to get back into it when I'm done competing, but right now I'm putting all of my eggs into one basket and just focusing on this. But of course, my time on stage will come to an end at some point and I would love to dive back into that.
Yeah, and you actually just mentioned too that that time might be in the next 2 years. So, what are your goals in competing at least over the next 2 years before starting a family?
Well, next year I want to I don't really know 100%, but I do know that if there's anything I want to do at least once, it's to travel, and maybe do like a 2 or 3 week trip somewhere overseas and just compete while I'm there, and then enjoy like a week off after and just explore. That would definitely be my bucket list thing for competing. And other than that, my goal is to, of course, qualify for the Olympia one day. But I just want to enjoy being a pro and enjoy being able to travel and compete with all the pros that, I've looked up to. And it's just, I just want to enjoy it. I feel like as an amateur, it's a lot harder to enjoy the process because you're so focused on getting your pro card. And if you don't get it, you know, that's it. Like there's nothing else to be an amateur sometimes. But as a pro, it's like, okay, I made it to the pro league. Now I can take my time and just enjoy the experience and enjoy the climb. So that's what I'm doing, I guess.
That's awesome. Now, you don't have to answer this question because I know it might be hard or controversial, but do you have any favorite pros that you're like really eager to step on stage with?
Yeah, so I would love to be on stage with Janet and Laura Lee. I feel like, well, I just love Laura Lee in general. She's just such a wonderful and humble person. I was lucky enough to meet her and do her hair for the New York Pro.
Wow.
And she was just a pleasure to talk to and get advice from. And I just really enjoyed spending that time with her. And I would love to share the stage with her. And then Janet, too. I got to talk with her for a few minutes. I did her hair as well. And I just feel like my style in general as an athlete, like we're kind of similar. I can't really put my finger on it, but she's tall and beautiful and very modelly, and I like to emulate that vibe and how she poses. Like I just feel like I have the most in common with her in terms of, her stage look.
Yeah, that'd be really cool to see you guys next to each other.
Yeah, I would love that so much.
And you did do both their hair, and I had it
Yeah.
written down to ask how a competitor could benefit from having, I'm assuming this was not just hairstyling, but maybe extensions as well.
Oh gosh, extensions can, they can totally transform your look. I think if you're someone who has fine hair or, shorter hair, extensions really just they're like the icing on the cake. I mean, I have decent hair, like it's not thin or anything like that, but if I went on stage with just my natural hair, it wouldn't have that fullness and just that polished look that it has when I wear my extensions. It's just a final touch to your package that I think goes a long way.
I only recently started wearing them my last two shows, and I did it for the fullness effect.
Hmm.
And yeah, like it popped way more.
Oh yeah, it can fill out and balance your physique so much better. Unless there is a fine line. You don't want to wear so much hair to where it's covering you, but you want to look polished and put together. And sometimes just adding a little bit of hair can be that final touch that you need.
And how long have you been doing hair?
Since 2008, like right after I graduated high school, I went straight to beauty school, and yeah, ever since then
Wow.
I've been doing it.
How did you work up or get to that point where you open your own studio?
I owe a lot of it to Instagram, actually. I feel like ever since Instagram became a thing, a few years ago, it's really opened up the doors for artists and hairstylists and makeup artists and bridal stylists and anybody in like the creative realm. It's really just opened up so many opportunities, and you just connect with so many people who are also stepping out of their comfort zone and going off on their own, and they just give you advice or the confidence to do it yourself. So I think if you asked me a few years ago if I'd be here today, I would say no way in hell would I be running my own salon. Like it would have not been a thing at all. But, I got out of my comfort zone thanks to, a lot of other supporters that I have in my corner who've done the same thing. So, yeah, I think Instagram has been a great thing for that.
Wow. And do you have a special niche or something you love doing or focusing on?
I think just natural hair color and hair extensions. That's like pretty much all I do now. Um, I don't I don't do anything else anymore. I used to do everything, but then I found that I was really good at this and there's a big market for it and there's not many people in my area who do it. So it just worked out.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
do you have employees or is it just your own ship?
It's just me right now, but I'm hopefully planning to have a bigger space next year as long as, everything goes accordingly. And then maybe I would consider having someone else, but I really enjoy just the peacefulness of being on my own and not having to worry about anybody else. But
Hmm.
at the same time, it does make it a lot harder because I do everything myself.
Yeah. That's so true. Well, it sounds like you're really passionate about this and this really has worked out well for you. Is this something you see yourself doing like forever, or do you have
I
other?
think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'll always do it. Even if I take a step back from it, I'll still always do it at least a little bit.
Do you do competitors' hair a lot as well?
No, that was just like a one-time thing, actually. But I'd be open to it. So, if
I
anybody
love
needs
how your
hair in
one-time thing
Jersey,
was, yeah, like that's, I think that's a great opportunity because the fact that the two competitors you did, I mean, come on, that's crazy.
yeah, that it was really cool and I really enjoyed it.
I love that. So that's something you're open to. Where would people find your studio or even connect with you to book with you?
So I have a separate Instagram for my hair page. It's Kristen Marie Hair on
Okay.
Instagram.
I'm gonna put that in the show notes too.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I just think that that's awesome and it would be great if people could. And yeah, I mean, aside from your passions outside of bodybuilding, which I think is amazing, and you're so focused on fulfillment in every area of your life and growth, and I love how intentionally you live. I was wanting to ask you like how you even got into competing in the first place because you had been lifting since 2013, but then you of course you met your now husband and you guys started together, but and you had followed the sport, but why competing? Why the NPC? And then why ultimately pursue your pro card?
So it all started with a good friend of mine who I worked with in a salon. Her name is Jocelyn. She did a competition for the first time and she said, "Hey, you should do it with me." So I was like, "Okay, let's do it." And of course, I didn't
Wow.
follow through with it. However, the lifting and the sport stayed with me and I followed it ever since. And eventually I did step on stage. So yeah, my the first show that I ever went to in person, like just as a spectator, was NPC Universe in 2013.
Well,
And then I won my pro card at NPC Universe. So it was just really cool. Everything just circled back.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
What was your feedback at Universe after winning the overall? Or was it?
Yeah, so no, I didn't win the overall. I actually got second in my class. Um
Okay.
Yeah, so top two win the pro cards at Universe.
I think I got that wrong in your intro. But anyway, um
Oh, that's okay. You talk to so many athletes, it's hard to. Yeah,
yeah,
so I won the overall at the DC Pro Am.
okay, that's what it
Yeah,
was then. I think I
yes.
just got it mixed up. So then okay, correction to everybody out there. Sorry about that. But talk to us about like what your feedback was after winning your pro card.
Just to grow. I just need more size, especially being, almost a little over 5'7". I definitely have some room to grow. And now after seeing myself next to all the other pros, I have a better perspective of where I need to be.
Definitely. Now, what do you think's required of you to get there?
Just time, food, time,
Mhm.
consistent effort. And then eventually, trust the process. It'll happen. But just being consistent is number one.
Yes, so
Live
true.
healthy, train
Yeah.
hard. Yep, simple.
Rather than like, oh, I'm gonna like try to get the most out of this right now. It's like, no, just stay consistent. The results come. They've already come so much for you. And yeah, I every time I've been told to grow, I'm like, okay, like I went on stage at USA's. I knew I was way too small. And then like I just did North American and I was like still told that I was too small and I need to grow.
Mhm.
But I was like, okay, but look how much I already grew. Like I can be proud of that. And that's what this is really about, is we're always growing.
Yeah, and that's what I love so much about the sport is that you can't only love competing, you have to love the process of getting there because it's a long process. And, for some people, depending on genetics, it can happen a little bit faster, but you can't compare yourself to other people's journeys. You have to worry about your own journey, enjoy it, and, don't rush to get to the next level because you're only going to stress yourself out. Like you just have to learn to love the process.
Yeah, love that. I love how you said don't rush to get to the next level. That's really cool. So, aside from those things, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think I should have before I get your best advice?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered all the good details.
That was so awesome.
Yeah, I love this. This is great.
Me too. This is so natural. So, I'll talk to you more about that after, but can you give us your best advice for someone who's never competed before but would like to, and then your best advice for someone on their road to pro?
Okay, my best advice, I have a few things for a new competitor is hire a coach and do your research um, because there's a lot of amazing coaches out there and there's a lot of, not so amazing coaches out there, but you have to do your research and find who's going to be the best coach for you because there could be an amazing coach who's great for somebody, but not great for another person. And you have to find who you think is going to be great for you and make it a pleasant experience. Um, because I know a lot of athletes who have had terrible experiences and never want to compete again because of it. And it doesn't have to be that way. You're supposed to do this because you love it. Um, and then the other thing I would say is just, like I said before, just enjoy the process. The ups and the downs and just enjoy unlocking the next best version of you because that's what's going to happen.
Mm, that's amazing. And can you let everybody know how they can connect with you on your maybe fitness page as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on there all the time, so anybody can reach out to me if they ever need advice or, on anything, not even just bodybuilding, but just on life. I'm an open book and I'm happy to share my experience and how I got through things. So if anybody wants to ever reach out to me, I'm here to talk.
And I really appreciate how open you have been. And it came so naturally to you. Like you could just tell you're a very genuine, kind
Thank
person.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
seriously. Like it's really awesome. And the fact that you're opening up to other people and letting them know that they can come to you and talk to, it's really, really cool.
Yeah, it took me a while to get to this point. I never really mentioned it until recently. Um, with my previous relationship, like I always kept that to myself, just because of fear of judgment. But ever since turning pro and realizing how many people, follow your journey and watch what you're doing and look up to you, I feel like I need to be more open because I know that there's other girls out there that are maybe going through a similar situation that I can possibly help them with or just, give them guidance with.
Absolutely. Like, I already know that this episode has made an impact on people listening because you shared not just like vulnerably what you've experienced, but also how you got through it and things that you learned. And it's so applicable and it's so real. And I appreciate you showing up for this podcast that way, but just showing up in general in your life that way. You're really amazing. And I'm so glad that we got to talk.
Thank you. I'm honored that you allowed me to be here today and open up about all of this.
Of course, it was amazing. And I hope that everyone listening, if you resonated with any of this or if you've enjoyed this, tag us and post this on your story. Like, take your screenshots, let us know, or slide in the DMs because it goes a long way for the
Mhm.
athletes. And
Mhm.
when we shine light on all of our stories and each other, like, it's shining light on this sport, it's shining light on what we do. And I just love the support of this community. And I hope that if you did enjoy this episode, you'll consider sharing it with a friend. And of course, if you go to celestial.fit/podcast and you're listening to this right away, you can see all the show notes from this episode at the top of the page. That's not just a summary of the episode, but also summary of the topics we covered and episode timestamps, as well as the links that were mentioned during the interview. So you'll be able to see everything there and even tell your teammates or friends about it. And if you're listening in the future, just scroll down to the category section and it's alphabetized there so you can see all the notes there as well. And thank you all for listening. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode.